Hey, my peaches, we're with Tori. She's known as Detox Tori. She is a detox practitioner and iridologist who has come a long way with her healing journey on raw foods. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Thank you for having me, first of all. I have gotten to a place where I'm a detox coach, and it's just through my own journey with chemotherapy. You guys can check out, my story on other platforms, but just to sum things up, I had an autoimmune reaction that required a lot of Western medical intervention. And in my process of trying to figure out how to heal the aftermath of that crazy, toxicity level on the body, I found what works and I found what doesn't work, especially being someone whose body depletes quite quickly and I'm thinner. Like, there's an art to really detoxing the body while maintaining substance and keeping yourself nourished. So just in my own experience, trial and error, education, mentorship with my teachers, and experience detoxing like hundreds of people at this point, I've come to a place where I share on the internet and network with cool people like Jen. And we have cool conversations like this just to throw the knowledge out there in a easy to understand way.
Would you say a big part of what you teach is how to detox without depleting?
Yeah, it's a cute little slogan, like detoxing without depletion. I like the alliteration on that. And it's just because I've just seen the volume of people that come to me is a little high just because of the internet. And I just see so many people with damage from detoxing in a certain way. And I've kind of just learned and found trends and seen what different body types are experiencing across what people are kind of bringing to me to do damage control. So yeah, detoxing without depletion is just a cute way to sum up the message that I'm trying to share.
Of course, I find sometimes people will blame a raw diet for a health issue when really it's the fact that they didn't do the raw diet because they were doing juicing or water fasting. It's how can you blame a diet for someone that didn't even eat? So
that's a bar right there.
But it's also interesting because we don't blame the standard American diet when someone's sick. So where should we be looking, right? But it is so much more than just diet, but I'm sure the diet helped a lot. How long have you been raw?
I don't even know if I claim that word. I've said too across the internet, I don't really claim the word vegan either, because who knows? Who knows where life will take me? But I'm high raw. I'm mostly raw. Some days I'll be yeah, I want a plate of steamed broccoli with some tahini on it. I definitely want that, So I don't really claim words because people get super like this, But I'm high raw. Definitely high raw. Most days are raw.
I was really curious. I know you came from a background even with addiction or eating a crappy diet. What sparked it in you to look for an alternative path? And what would you have started with? Because usually someone who isn't already that mindset of, I know even you took birth control, you were just taking pills. What made it so that you wanted to not take a pill once they decided we should do chemo, we should do all these other things?
So what triggered the autoimmune thing was a medication. It was a pill. So when my body had a hyper reaction that required chemo and blood transfusions and hospital bedridden, because a pill caused that, since that day, I have not a single Western med thing has gone in my body, it was more so there's a reason that Western med triggered all of this, and I will never ever put something else in my body with the potential of triggering that again. So I was forced to, yeah.
And how did you discover a raw diet or even more plant-based?
It was definitely stepping stones, because when I first recognized that nutrition would play a big factor, it started with grass-fed meats and pasture-raised eggs or free-range eggs. I don't even know the terms anymore at this point because I do not eat that. But that type of thing, wild-caught fish. And I was I got myself off of canola oils, but I was still cooking with a ton of oil. And a lot of sourdough bread. It's like the healthier thing. And if anyone follows my page, I always say there's healthy versus healing. These are two different things. So sure, all of these options are healthier than a standard American diet, but none of them are going to get my body to a point where it's stripping waste. It's stripping the accumulation of toxicity that chemo did, add a nice cherry on top of the hat to my whole life prior, or cherry on top of the cake. And I guess just thing after thing wasn't necessarily working to get chemo out of my body because I still had symptoms of that crazy depletion and stuff. So it was that to like a ton of supplements and holistic nutritionists and then naturopaths and then like gut stool testing and food sensitivity testing. And it's like all these things just weren't enough. So it just leads you down a path of refining. And here, I've landed here now.
What do you think of a like homeopathic type healing in medicine?
Ooh, good question. I don't know enough about it to have an opinion on it. I don't really use any homeopathic things. I'd say for pain, the only thing is I use arnica sometimes topically. That's the only thing I know about homeopathy.
Okay. I think it's like introducing like small bits of poison or something. So I never tried it, but one time, like when I ran away from hospital, I just prayed to God and went to a random house, and then I ended up meeting this like homeopathic person. So it was like a healing time in my life, and she would just give me those pills and she would like tell me certain things about them. And I feel like almost like the intention of it just like helped me so much, because like I released the reality in that. So it was more so like, oh, this is for this, and I would focus on that and take that pill, and it was almost like a placebo in a way, because like I've stopped taking them when I feel fine, but during that time it was really beneficial. So it was just interesting if you had any experience with it.
No, but it's interesting what you said too. Like to me, everything is kind of placebo, like we look at, there's a documentary of Wim Hof who gets shot up by poison and he completely is not affected by it at all because of his mind. So in reality, like everything is placebo. If someone has such a sovereign mind, I bet they can get away with eating in a way that's not as particular as me and you eat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your mind influences your body a lot. Like I used to make my heart rate really fast before like heart checks so that it wouldn't be too low to like get admitted or something. But I think what do you think about like Wim Hof's version of like breath work in that? Do you think it's a little bit hard on the nervous system?
No, but I also don't like practice it in a way that feels extreme. I'm not into extremist things really. Like if someone's embodying a Wim Hof style of breathing for an hour twice a day, like, yeah, maybe that might be hard on the body, but I don't know. I don't practice his stuff in particular enough for me to recognize if it has any crazy effect.
Okay. I know I've tried, say, like cold plunge or like the Wim Hof style of breathing, but it kind of brings me into like that fight or flight, which is like really familiar to me. And I just feel like if somebody's in that state, that's when it's hard to like digest your food or something, right? And I know nervous system regulation can be really important for our overall health. Do you have experience with helping people with their nervous system?
I think that's the last thing in my body I'm healing myself. Like the nervous system regulation is probably the hardest one to regulate, truly. And of course, we can work on a physical plane by just like getting enough minerals in the body. But in reality, it's like, are we meditating? Are we actually sleeping? How are we coping with our life, truly? And to me, the nervous system healing is almost beyond a physical level. So I think that we can put our bodies under stress, like cold plunge. I definitely love a cold shower, I definitely love to shock your body a little bit in that way. If you're already in fight or flight, I really don't think there's a yes or no though, because some people might feel good even in fight or flight after a cold plunge, and some people totally may not. So I never think there's like a one way or a one thing you can say about a certain practice.
Okay. Do you think that if someone is trying to live a healthier lifestyle, kind of where you were, do you think it's best to start the way you did from processed food to more so like whole food versions of meat, and then to a plant-based diet, then to raw diet? Or is it better to go right to a raw diet?
The only reason I don't think it's good to go straight to a raw diet is somebody's mental state. You know, I've dropped into a place where I recognize a lot about, like, in coaching a lot of people, you just see where everyone's at. You know, it's not sustainable if people drop into a raw diet. And truly, if they might have symptoms in the body of purging very quickly, like, I just can't, some people can do amazing, some people cannot, right? And I don't think it's sustainable in the long run for people to try to create habits or break habits super rapidly that way. So that's the only reason why I would say a transition is always going to make a life more sustainable and more enjoyable, because you're only chipping away at small pieces at a time.
What is the peak state of detox that you would bring someone through?
It's just according to everyone's body. I think in my case, right, the peak state is water fasting for several days, right? But I have only water fast a couple times in my entire journey, and it's been only during points where I know I was extremely nourished leading up to it. And there was a very intentional process behind that. Clients can definitely be taken through a water fast, but during, like, I work with most people on their first ever detox. So it's just different, you know, like, the protocols that we use for someone just beginning is very different from someone's body who's at your state or my state or Ted's state. You know, it's a completely different situation. So people can handle like maybe a 1-day water fast if they're on this first ever detox, or like a couple day juice fast if they're on their first ever detox. I just see people's bodies are way too depleted in general. And these extreme styles of fasting bring people way too out of balance to where like calcium drops, iron drops. Like you can tell when people's bodies can't handle like extended fasts like that. So I definitely bring them all the way up, but it's not all the way up for an extended period of time.
For sure. Do you believe that someone can be breatharian, or do you really not agree with that? And do you think maybe they're living, like, I kind of think that they could be living on stored body fat, which is like energy from food. And maybe like someone could water fast when they're overweight because they have more body fat to live on. But like you said, that could still be depleting for someone who's overweight if they don't have like the minerals and that in their body, right?
Yeah, it's exactly that. Yeah. Some people can do great. Some people don't. I would say it's easier and less scary for overweight people to water fast or do those higher level fastings for a more extended period of time. And they wouldn't necessarily notice like the drops in calcium or the drops in iron, like versus someone with my body type, which is a very like Vata body type. If we talk about Ayurvedic medicine versus like a Kapha body type is a very overweight. So I think they just have a bigger buffer for mistakes. When you're overweight, you have a bigger buffer until depletion when you are overweight. And then the breatharian stuff, like I don't even consider that at all. You know, I don't know anyone who's a breatharian. I don't really care for that, truly. I think that they don't even seem like they'd be living off of stored body fat, because what do you have left at that point? I think it's a placebo mental game, right? That you're living off the mind and the ability to control your body's function at the deepest level. That's my opinion on that. It seems crazy cool, you know, but I have no experience, no opinion.
For sure. Do you have any experience helping anybody with osteoporosis?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. My whole family is osteoporosis diagnosed, you know, and they always tell me, they're like, you know, we have this, so you better watch out. And I always respond like, I'm never going to have this problem ever. Thank you for the warning. But no, yeah, my whole family is probably the number one. And then I had a couple clients who have osteoporosis, and then someone right now, we're going through a big bone building protocol. Yeah.
Do you think it's a reversible thing?
Yeah, I think if you're doing things the right way, I wouldn't say that I have seen anyone's like bone scans. Like, you know, I fully admit that I'm a newer face to this game, right? So I don't have clients for 5 or 10 years of reversing conditions. So I fully acknowledge where I'm at, and it you know, people hear the way that I share, and people see all the information I put out. So that stands on its own, but I don't have 10 years worth of somebody's journey as a testimonial. So I'm still actively working on everyone with osteoporosis. I'm still actively working with them right now.
Okay. You can only get a bone scan every 4 years. I got one and like I lost a bunch of bone density in like my hips and my shoulders, or not my shoulders. I don't know where else you lose it, like in your back or something. But when I got it done again, I actually built up more bone density. Recently when I got it done, it was about like a year ago, and that was after I had relapsed and lost a ton of weight again. So like that just shows the power of how regenerative it can be when you eat a lot of raw fruits and vegetables.
Is that all you attribute it to? Like, what are you recommending?
Well, there's nothing, like there's no other way. Like I was able, because I lost that much weight again. I was expecting it to be a lot worse. Because I ended up, I relapsed again after that. Because I only got it checked like when I was young. And then, I built myself up with the raw foods and then it was better. So maybe it's just from maintaining like a higher weight again. Like maybe that would have happened with any food, right? So you don't know for sure, but all the doctors said that you couldn't reverse it and that it would be worse. So it is interesting, right?
It's crazy. It's crazy what they say sometimes.
Yeah. How about with gastroparesis?
Oh, what about it?
Do you have anybody that comes to you with it?
People definitely come to me with it. It's a matter if they followed through working with me or not. I haven't had anybody that I've worked with directly. I don't take on clients by myself either. Like the volume of people that come to me and the array of conditions that come to me, I will never claim to be a master because I am I'm a new face to this. So I don't take on clients by myself. I take on clients with my teacher, who's a full natural physician, naturopath for 14 years. So if I haven't seen something, she's seen it. We work together in tandem. It's beautiful. So
it's amazing how big your team is, because that gives people the chance not only to like be understood, but like not only to understand you, but to be understood, right? Like they'll have people that can listen to them.
And it has to be that way, like I'm almost 26 years old. I'm a female. I've never given birth yet. I've never breastfed yet. There are things that you can really only speak on when you've embodied it and lived it and recovered from it and sustained yourself through it. So if I'm to sit up here and act like I know 100% of the things through every stage of life, I've never gone through menopause, I'm not a man, right? It's like, there are just certain things that I truly believe, like, don't speak on it, with such an authority if you've never lived through it, which is why the team has to be big, because I need somebody who's seen it and experienced it directly in my corner, and fully admitting when you don't know something and fully admitting when you need to lean on people who know more than you is the only way to like do anything, I feel.
I love that. You were able to even like delegate, when people don't want to delegate because they don't think that anybody can do it better than them, but that there are people that have it stronger in certain areas. So that just makes you that much stronger. And the reason I was asking about osteoporosis and gastroparesis is because those are what I went through, right? So I'm just asking about things I know about, and then I know that people that come to me usually can relate to, because I recently had another client that came to me about gastroparesis. And she said that she had already been doing like lots of Lauren Lockman type like fasting and stuff. So I don't know if water fasting can sometimes shut down someone's ability to be properly digesting food. I don't know. Do you think that can influence that?
I do. Yeah, I believe long-term water fasting and long-term juice fasting, I see it every day. People's digestive systems can't recover because they've been off for too long. I see exactly what you're saying.
Okay. And do you think that it can be healing? In the beginning, before I went raw, I was sticking to like only fruits and veggies, but I did like cooked veggies. Do you think that can be as far as someone would need for healing for some people?
Are you including greens in the category of veggies?
Yeah, like only raw fruits, veggies, and then also cooked veggies, like if you have to cook a potato, or more so like a zucchini or a squash.
I think like nuts and seeds and avocados and fats are a good. I believe that if you have a balanced diet across fruits, veggies, raw veggies, leafy greens, steamed veggies, nuts, seeds, avocados, right? If you're balanced across all these things, eventually the body's going to heal no matter what, and if you're kind of not utilizing some of the deeper level practices like a juice fast, like a water fast, which help speed up the flushing process, if you're not even doing any of those, the body's going to heal eventually if you maintain that balanced lifestyle. It's just a matter of time. So taking people through a protocol, we're obviously giving people results at a faster period of time because we're guiding them through these higher levels that help the body flush faster. But technically, like, it's inevitable the body will heal when you bring it into balance.
I love it. Do you think that a like all fruit diet is okay for some people?
No. For some, maybe. Men probably do more, maybe do much well. How do you even say that? Do more well? Much well? Do more well?
Much
I don't
better.
know. Much better. Thank you. Better. Duh. Yeah, I think men probably do much better. I think I just see, like, I've done all fruit for 4 months. All fruit for 4 months, and it completely just shot my body. And I have three women right now, aftermath of fruit. One man right now, aftermath of all fruit. It's just like, there's something happening with the all fruit narrative or the all fruit style of healing where people don't understand how to do it without depleting themselves down to the point where you're causing more damage. And like, I know how to do an all fruit thing. You know how to do an all fruit thing, but it's like, there's something getting lost between that style of healing and then how the public or people are embodying it. There's a gap in something where people are not doing it right, because I see it every day, every single day, the amount of people in my DMs that I'm like trying to work with one-on-one to do damage control specifically after all fruit. It's unfortunate. So
A lot of the time I think people don't understand how to eat enough, and they're also forcing their body into it, which is like the opposite of what I did. Like, the only reason I ate only fruit was because that's what my body was asking for, and people aren't really looking inside, they're looking outside of themselves.
Yes. Because fruit now is being shown as like a cure-all as well. You know, like, there's a difference of like intuitive eating and eating seasonally and loving fruit when it's super warm out and not putting your body through these, like, exactly what you're saying, forced things. But it's being used now as like, this will heal everything all the time, always.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Plus, like, I would have worked up so slowly to it, like going on to just all fruits and veggies, but like some steamed veggies before you do it too. And also being vegan for like 4 years, 7 years before I ever did any raw vegan stuff. So like, my body was already ready for it. And I just was having digestive issues like a lot with like nuts and seeds or grains, and especially grains, actually, like really like mucusy, right? Or just feeling like really acidic symptoms. So I just like couldn't really digest it very well, that it was like really healing to do mainly fruits. But if I ever crave greens, then there's nothing wrong with like having leafy greens or like herbs, of course. Like, I remember there was times where I would crave cilantro so much that I would eat like my whole salad base was cilantro instead of lettuce, right? So you just have to listen to your body. And also, when you're eating, if you are eating all fruit, like, you want to also be eating the veggie type fruits that people think are veggies, like the tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers, and also eating the fatty fruits like avocado, right? So usually people eliminate all those things, and then you're missing out on a lot.
But I know. Also, I'm glad you're saying that. Exactly. That's exactly.
I think it's important with the fats to only be eating it like when you're craving it. Like, whenever I force fats when I don't want it, I don't feel good. But if I force myself not to eat fats when I'm craving it, then like you're sleeper depleted, right?
I think there's also like, there's a thing with the fats, because at this point, like, in our bodies, we're very in tune to when we truly want fat, right? And I've recognized the way that I need to speak on certain things. I will never ever tell anyone to cut out fat unless there's a super, super intentional way to do it when they're fasting. And I tell people, like, if you're transitioning into this life, a serving of fat a day is how you're going to maintain nourishment as everything else in your life is changing, right? All of a sudden we're taking out meats. All of a sudden we're taking out dense oils. All of a sudden we're taking out these things. It's like, okay, there are certain stuff that we can maintain and hold on to until it's time.
Yeah, I know what Haley said too was that fats have a lot of nutrients within it. It's not just fat, right? Like, it's those certain vitamins that come with the fatty foods that you don't want to miss out on. What do you think that over time people may have since we've been eating cooked foods and animal products for so long, that might have changed like our gene expression, and now we actually do need to be eating cooked foods, and that maybe it's natural because fire is natural, like kind of those arguments towards raw food diet. What do you think about that?
So I don't believe an all raw diet is the ultimate way. I'll just clarify that. I think that, you know, on the earth, right, we've had fire from the beginning. Everyone's had fire. You know, we've always had fire. Every ancestor has had fire at some point. So if we have things like squashes and pumpkins and stuff that's super dense, it's like you have to cook these things to break them down. So yeah, I mean, has it changed our gene expression? I don't have a comment on that, but I believe that in terms of like cooked food, steaming stuff and roasting stuff, like, of course we should eat higher raw, you know, of course, but you know, it's also natural technically to be eating stuff over fire, right? And be cooking with water. In terms of the meat things, I don't claim vegan. Like, I don't claim that. I'm not anti-meat at all. I think if someone is super low in iron or pregnant or feels depleted or enjoys density of meat or recognizes that their body needs like some sort of external strength that way, then game meats, elk, venison, bison, turkey, wild caught, like all those things are super valid. It's just a problem when it's done in abundance. So if you're taking a little, like I kind of say sometimes on live, like a bump of meat, right? Or a bump of animal product, that's kind of what it is. It shouldn't be used as, I don't even think it should be used as a regular part of someone's routine. Like, it should be used intentionally. And when you recognize that you're in a place where, okay, I need some hyper support right now.
I really like that. It's really important to be intentional about what you're eating, like herbs even for more remineralizing, or same with the veggies and fruits for more energy. And then if you want to rebuild more, like maybe a little bit of meat in someday, if that's what your body's asking for. It's a really like non-restrictive and inclusive approach. So that's super helpful for a lot of people to know that they can be healthy without having to do those things. I know for me, like I've always been ethically vegan. So someone brought up the argument to me though. They're like, well, we're also an animal, right? Like you got to take care of yourself. And if you're causing harm to yourself, like if it was truly way healthier to eat animals, I would definitely be eating animals because we have to put ourselves first. But because so many people thrive on a plant-based diet, I just don't force it on myself. But my dad, he's actually a hunter, so he actually just went hunting now, and he'll bring home like usually elk, but that will last him like the whole year, just like one animal. So I'm glad that he's doing it that way versus going from fast food restaurants that are going to be supporting factory farming and also just all the antibiotics and all the fear that's in that meat. But it's a lot different when it's a wild animal. But I still just like for myself can't get over the fact, like, even if that animal is living peacefully in the woods, why should I go and kill it? Like, especially when I can eat these other foods, right? Ethically, where do you stand?
I'm super impartial. Like, I don't necessarily believe one side or the other. I see both arguments. If I were to answer right now, I don't eat meat currently, but there's no like ethical animal reason behind it. I fully don't support any sort of like factory farm foods, but to me, like the concept of hunting is different. There's also a different energy behind that. And like, especially if you're hunting with respect to the land, if you're hunting like, you know, in a way where like, I don't know, there's something that's always resonated with me. And one of my mentors, Haley, she shared this to me, even when we're talking about like plucking plants from like while you're on a walk, just like taking stuff from nature, like even shells on a beach or something like that. She always said, she's like, stuff is here for a reason. Why are you the thing taking it? And if you're gonna take it or want to take it, you have to offer something in return, whether it be prayer or whether it be like, she even taught us like a little drop of saliva, because like human energy is like cool, you know? So if you're hunting intentionally and you have like this, like, I'm doing this to nourish my body, and like, I think it's fine, cool, ethically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see that. And also, if people can like learn how to drive cars and fly airplanes, I think we would have learned how to cook. So I can see how it's like more of a natural process. And also, energy can't really be created or destroyed. So when you understand things more from like a spiritual aspect, it's not as destructive even. So I think there's like a different level that people can be on mentally and emotionally that's also going to affect their health, which is so important to be in tune with. And I know you had to go through some chemo, and for me, like, I had to go through the Western medicine, like lots of tube feeds, which is literally corn syrup, canola oil, whey protein, soy, and like that's all I lived on. So I just mentally feel awful when you're on that. What kind of detoxing would you recommend for someone who's done a lot of Western medicine type drugs and medicine to heal?
To me, I think detoxing Western med is the hardest thing in the game. Like, especially extreme Western med like that. You know, it's different if people are on like a statin or, you know, diabetes medication or something like that. I'm talking about when you're into like transfusion level and steroid level and long-term birth control level and chemo and all those things. It's just a different ball game. Just because the amount of sulfur that's introduced to the body, heavy metals that are introduced to the body, like, for me, I've done a lot of liver flushes. I've done a lot of heavy metal cleansing. I've seen reactions of chemicals coming out of my body. And, you know, that's what I would say to people who are on Western med. Like, keep these things in the back of your mind, right? If you've been on extreme Western med, right? The healing journey ultimately like gets to kind of this level. Like, the only reason why I've landed here is because I ended up with an entire face of acne after chemo, and nothing else was working to remove chemo from my body until I got to this level of cleansing.
Wow. Yeah, if you can heal that, then anybody can heal small things from even like a toxic diet or something, because you also have the toxic diet on top of it.
Yeah.
So it's amazing what you've done. And do you also find that it's more self-empowering to go through a self-healing journey rather than taking the medicine or knowing that you're taking like a band-aid solution?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think that if you even are taking band-aid solutions, you haven't gotten to a place where you're self-empowered at all, kind of, you know? You're still and that's not me judging and that's not me being harmful, but even like, you know, working with people when there's such a clear path in front of them and there's still like a mindset of like, okay, my doctor still told me this and this and this, when I can give you an exact root cause and plan of action regardless of anything that they say. And I never say come off Western med cold turkey. That's dangerous. I never say don't use Western med, but I say give this a chance to work. And if you use them together, that's better than not doing this at all.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. It doesn't need to be all or nothing. Like, I still have to go to a doctor appointment once in a while, but I eat a natural diet. And if he asks me what I'm doing, he's like, oh, just keep doing what you're doing. Yeah, he thinks I'm eating like steak every day, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah. My doctor the other day, just like a funny story, since I'm traveling soon, his recommendation for me to travel is to only eat deep fried food because it kills all the bad bacteria. I'm like, okay, but it's going to kill all the good bacteria. Your body doesn't even have like good immunity if you're not eating real food. So it's just interesting the way people think is so like sanitary about everything, right?
How do you even respond? Sometimes people ask me like, how do I respond when I hear stuff that's wild like that? What do you even do?
I sometimes shut down, but sometimes I'll have a good response. Like when he said, what if you have an eater's regret thing? And I just said I would puke because like I've had bulimia, like I know how to do that. Like I'll be sassy about it sometimes, but How about you?
I have not been to a doctor in a very long time. I think that what was the last time? I feel like I just get like super straight and upfront about it. I'm just like, like my body's the last thing I'm worried about, and you're not about to tell me anything. So sorry.
Yeah, I've been like that. Like even as a kid to a psychologist, he came in and I was like, so you're just gonna ask me if I want medications? And he's like, and he just said yes. Like that's all he's gonna do every time he comes in the room. I was like, I'm literally here looking for mental support, and this is all they're gonna do, which is ask me if I want medication every time.
Oh, that is awful.
I know, it's like sometimes the things that would happen, I just wish it was like on video for people to see, right? But it's all behind closed doors. Was there anything that was kind of like seemed almost disrespectful when you were in hospital?
Oh my gosh. There's one story. I don't even know if you might have to bleep out some words just in case YouTube may censor you. But oh my gosh. So with my chemo stuff and that autoimmune reaction, I was given like the top doctors in Boston for that particular issue. And all this happened in 2019, obviously, before the pandemic. So I remember this so clearly, Jen. The level of disrespect was absolutely ridiculous. Because like when you go get COVID tested, like it flags your medical record when I went to go get tested at my primary care. And it flagged my medical record, so the Boston doctors saw. And they had been the second that vaccine came out, they were like, you have an autoimmune disease, you can get it, right? You have permission to get it, right? And I like, this is before I stayed so strong in this stance of like zero Western med ever. And of course, like none of us knew anything. And like I was offered to it like pre-trial. Like I was offered the very, very beginning of when that thing came out because of this autoimmune disease that was so rare. And I had ended up saying no. Okay. So this was before I ended up getting COVID. When I got COVID and it flagged them, I got a call to my phone from the doctors and they were like, so you have COVID, I saw. I'm like, uh-huh. They're like, you're not in the hospital, are you? I was like, actually, no. They're like, did you get your vaccine like we told you to? I'm like, no. And they're like, but you're not in the hospital? I was like, absolutely not. Why would I be? I'm healthy and I'm young. Why would I be in the hospital? So it was just like this level of mocking, and you reached out to me when I had this problem. No. So I have not talked to them ever since that. And they're the ones that are supposed to be the all-knowing for this autoimmune thing that I experienced. So that was my number one, like, last interaction with Western med.
Wow. At least it gave you a reason to leave.
Yeah. It was the push out the door, literally.
Yeah. My doctor, a couple times, like when I was recovering from anorexia, he'd be like, every time I left the appointment, it was gain weight if you ever do. Like, what doctor says that? Like, he's totally just lost faith in me and would say stuff like that. He's my family doctor, so like I can't get rid of him.
Oh my gosh!
And
wow.
He's told me so many times, like if we were able to, I'd be injecting you every single appointment with OCD meds because like I don't want to take anything. He's like, I'd do that like every single time, but I can't do that. And anytime I was in hospital, he was like so glad that he like forced me to take all these medications. It was like this weird power struggle. And the other thing he said too, like once I gained the weight, he's like, no, you're just swollen. Like, your face looks swollen and stuff. Because, like, my face obviously looks huge compared to what it used to look. But I'm like, no, like, this is just my normal face. Like, he'll say such rude things.
Oh, that's, like, that should borderline be, like, illegal. Not illegal, but, like, you're kind of malpracticing by saying stuff like that.
I know. It doesn't matter because I'm from, like, a small town, right? So, like, people just get away with this stuff. The thing with COVID, though, too, I was forced in hospital to eat meat because when you have an eating disorder, eventually you just like have no choice. And as soon as I did, the next day I got COVID. And it was such like a coincidence because like I hadn't been sick for like 7 years of being vegan. I ate meat once and I got so sick and I had COVID for like that week in hospital. But it was nice because I just slept through it. But
oh my gosh. It's crazy. Like even hearing other people's stories of how, and like in your case too, like you dramatically went through the Western med system. And like, it's just crazy hearing this, honestly. Like when I hear other people's stories who have been like used and abused by the system, it's just like, ugh, that sucks.
Mm-hmm. But that's what's so empowering about more of a like self-healing journey is it's not even about proving them wrong, though. It's about proving yourself right, and that alone just technically proves them wrong, but
yeah, exactly.
What are the ways to detox and open elimination pathways? And do you think that you need juice always?
No, I think juice is last. No. I think that you can do so much more just in your everyday life to open up your elimination that most people want to avoid. And unfortunately, everyone's like, oh yeah, I can get away with like just using herbs to open my elimination pathways, even herbal formulations, right? We know lymphatic formulations and kidney formulations and all the things. It's like, how are you gonna, first of all, how are you gonna rely on an herbal formulation to work instantaneously or fast enough in your toxic body to accommodate for the amount of stuff you're stirring up when you start to drop into detox? You can't rely on it, because then people have reactions, rashes and hives and weird things trying to come out the skin. I see this every day. I think truly opening your elimination pathways is move your body, do some enemas, because no one's colon is working well enough, get sweating, and then let's do some castor oil packing to support the liver externally, some dry brushing to support the lymph externally. I think like the support that you give to the body, and like most of this, like Ayurvedic medicine uses castor oil packs all the time. Some of the ancient medicines use like enemas, you know, it's like get back to adding these things into your routine that can support the body on a level beyond just taking an herb. Because if you're tackling it in all directions at one time, you have a better experience. Sure, it's a learning curve. Sure, there's more in your routine now. But if you really want to heal with a good experience and truly make sure all elimination is supported across all fronts, diet, herbs, and manually, you just have to do all the things.
Mm-hmm. I really like what you're saying about how natural medicine is only really going to work in the natural body that's like eating natural food, right?
Exactly. I say that all the time, especially like people who want to use natural remedies and stuff. It's like, okay, if you want to use garlic as an antibiotic, you can't be eating burgers. Your body's not going to respond to natural remedies if it's toxic.
Garlic cheeseburgers to kill the parasites.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Have you heard of Protolite for remineralizing?
I haven't.
No, okay. It's mainly just like a lot of different herbs into like one formula. How about enemas?
What about them?
Do you recommend them to people? How often, or do you not recommend them?
I recommend them. How often is based on your body and level of elimination and where you are in your detox process. Whether you're on parasite herbs or not parasite herbs, it just depends. I think baseline, if people are starting their healing journey, get familiar with an enema if you've never done one, because it's the number one way you're going to support eliminating efficiently while you have a lot of die off during detox later on. So just get comfortable with them is all I say. I don't even give a recommendation. I don't even give a number per day. It's like, just get comfortable with them. And then if you're constipated and not eliminating for a 24-hour period, then you know you should have an enema. And this is even in everyday life. This is like pre-detox, just in someone's normal life.
Okay. Would you recommend that it be like lemon enemas or coffee or water?
And I mean, just, you know, beginners again, right? We're taught like, I just have to be careful with what I say, right? So start with water. Just start with water. If you're not comfortable with enemas at all, you just start with water. But technically enemas can be lemon water enemas or even baking soda enemas. They can be herbal enemas. They can be coffee enemas. But saying all this to somebody, all of that is overwhelming than me just saying, just start with water and get comfortable and do it whenever you are called to. You know, all that other stuff is just super higher level.
Yeah, I would always think to do water first just because it's a lot more natural. You don't have to risk anything. Like, I feel like coffee is like really acidic, and there's just something about that.
Well, even if coffee feels super acidic, it's also different if it's going through the digestive process versus kind of just coming up and washing down. And of course, it absorbs to some degree, but it's, you know, it's not being put down and like staying down, like when you're drinking it. And like, I mean, the Gerson therapy is a book and a therapy, and it's like one of the number one cancer treating therapies out there, and they're doing 5 coffee enemas every single day to heal cancers. So like, you know, I think everything is rooted in truth. There are a lot of modalities that work. And that's what I say about, you know,
yeah,
all these
plus
other
it would be
types of-
silly to do like a bunch of enemas like at the end of a juice cleanse or something when you're actually clean. So it's really situation dependent. And do you know, like, would you recommend that someone's doing it at home, or like, I know people can go to actual places to get it done, or what's the difference between closed system colonics and regular?
Yeah, so there's one where you're on a machine by yourself and there's no like colon hydrotherapist with you, but then there's another one where there's a hydrotherapist with you who's like massaging your belly, and you're kind of on your side with like an actual tube kind of into a machine, rather than just one you're sitting over a bathtub looking thing, and kind of just everything's automated versus non-automated. You know, human versus machine is just the difference between the two types of colonics. And I mean, in my case, like, it's funny because some people who have never tried enemas, they're like, well, I feel like I should start with a colonic first. To me, why would I do that? Why would I go to this crazy machine thing first, being the first time I've ever touched or even looked at my colon? Like, I'd rather do this in the comfort of my own home with a tiny little tube and my own ability to see what's going on. So I don't know.
And did you just like order it online? I'm asking because I ordered one online and it's chilling over here, and I never used it because I was like, this is creepy. It looks like it's from China. And I'm like, I don't want this to be like contaminated with something like put out my butt. So I was like,
that one does look sketchy. That one does look sketchy. You would want a stainless steel enema bucket, and then there's no questions about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much water do you drink and what type?
Distilled water. I definitely hit at least a gallon a day of water, but like, I don't really consume water on its own. It's like, it's either tea, it's in smoothies, it's the base of like this sort of spirulina green blend that I do. I live off of coconut waters too. So it's at least a gallon of liquid per day, and water is the base of that. You know,
do you count coconut water and juice towards that?
Yeah. I don't juice often. You know, like, if I were to juice, I would count that towards absolutely a gallon of water intake. Totally.
Okay. And what do you think about only drinking coconut water and not having water?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Okay, that's like my goal. If I only had more coconuts around, that's what I'd be doing.
Yeah, I love coconut water. And too, I am editing a YouTube video right now, but I went to Panama, and there's a raw food chef who's like, his name is Dr. Toris. And he's like, he runs Sunfired Culinary Institute. And so he lives on a farm in Panama and like teaches everybody how to cook raw food like this. And he only uses coconut water for everything. And he was explaining to me, because I spent a whole day there, he was explaining to me how coconuts are the closest to the sun ever. Like, the coconuts grow so high up on the trees, and they're the closest fruit or fat source or whatever you want to call it. They're the closest that you get to the sun. So there's a very nice, you know, spiritual intention too, or spiritual element behind coconuts.
I love that so much. And I also just love the fact that they have like all essential electrolytes in them, because that's such a big thing for people when they do water fast too, is their electrolytes going out of balance. And the longest that I did of like water fasting was like 3 days, but when I did coconut water, I did like a week or two on coconut water, and I felt like way better than obviously on water. And I feel like that could almost be like a really good healing water fast for someone, is coconut water too. Just for like a complete digestive break, even over juice, because it's actually like natural juice, you know? That's the only natural liquid that you find.
Yeah. I totally agree with you.
And even like foods that you have to otherwise rehydrate, it's almost like you wouldn't need water if we just stuck to the fruits and the coconuts.
True.
Do you worry at all about food combining?
I love this question. So when somebody's in the beginning of their journey or going through the thick of detox, I would say food combining matters in the very beginning because your digestive system probably doesn't have enough fire. It doesn't have enough oomph. The word is agni in Ayurveda. So when you don't have enough digestive fire, your digestive system is obviously not strong enough to break down crazy combinations. Then during active detox, you don't want to have crazy food combinations either because we're putting pressure on the digestive system. However, what I have found in my own body, and I stayed and lived with my mentor for quite a bit of time, if people saw what we ate, food combining rules go out the window. Like, sure, melons are eaten by themselves, but I'm using nut and seed milks as the base of some strawberry smoothies. I'm doing decadent raw food desserts, mixing cashew blended and like doing some sort of fruity cheesecake, you know? Like, or chia seed yogurt type things with fruits piled on top. Like, when your body's healed to some degree and your digestive fire is turned on again, these little nitty gritty things of food combining don't feel like law. Like, sure, I'm not going to combine banana and avocado. I'm not going to probably either combine banana and cashew. Like, that feels a little bit different from a chia and berries, you know? Or like a pumpkin seed milk with some strawberry blended in. It's just the density of those feels different.
That's really interesting. I know for me, like, I find that if I blend together, say, like chia seeds and banana or something in a smoothie, it doesn't bother me. But if I say ate, or even like if it was like some peanut butter and banana smoothie, it wouldn't be that bad. But if it's like eating a bunch of peanuts and then eating bananas, it's kind of different, right? Like there's, especially like I remember Ted would always share, like he once ate like a bunch of nuts and then he had oranges. And I'm like, yeah, that's going to be awful. But like, I guess maybe blending oranges and nuts might not be the best idea, but it's still going to digest a lot easier than if you have like one and then the other and it's just like already digesting in your body differently. But yeah.
Yeah. I guess too, I want to clarify, like when I say nuts and seeds, it's never eating whole nuts and seeds. Like everything is in the form of like blended or a nut or a seed milk or like some sort of blended sauce. Like I never, ever, ever am consuming whole nuts and seeds.
Yeah. And it's always soaked, right?
Yeah, of course.
What you were saying about banana and avocado, I don't know why, but anytime that, yeah, like I've blended that in a dressing because I'm like creamy and fatty together, right? Like it's going to be good and like add some spices to it, make it a savory, sweet, delicious dressing. But I had such bad bloating and stomach pain. I don't know why, but then I got a message from someone the other day. They said they ate banana and avocado and then they were into the emergency room and they had to like get an operation and stuff. Like something really bad happened. So is this a thing that I just like didn't know about?
I don't know. I was just playing off my feeling into the density of certain stuff. You know, banana's super, super dense in sugar, and I'm not going to combine that with like, you know, our fat sources. So yeah, that's crazy though.
Yeah. That's interesting that you would have intuitively thought of that. What do you think about like the starch solution type healing?
I don't know enough about it. What is it? Is it just removing starch?
Isn't
or
it
is
like
it doing all starch?
Dr. Doug McDougall's type diet of like eat low fat, eat a bunch of beans, rice, potatoes?
Again, this has been a narrative. This has been a theme of my content lately. He's also a man, right? So like, if you read the books from the masters, the master healers who are women, they never say extreme stuff like this. That's all I have to say about it.
That's a really good point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same with intermittent fasting. What do you think about that?
It's in men's bodies, it works phenomenally. They reset hormone cycles on a daily basis. For women who are a ripe fertility age, it's a different story, you know? For women who are, and the only reason I say that like he's a man is because like women lose iron and minerals on a monthly basis. Women are sustaining a womb. Women's hormone cycles do not have a natural replenish every 24 hours after sleeping. It just doesn't exist that way. Women require a lot more nourishment to the body. It's just natural, you know? That's the only why I say that.
I kind of look at it as the whole fasting mentality, a lot of it comes from what if we don't find an animal to kill? But if we go from like the fruitarian perspective of like, oh, we're meant to be on a tropical place with lots of abundance of food available, then why would you really need to go into that extended fast, right?
Got you.
But it is nice to eat like with the sun and that. Did you have to gain some weight when you went to a raw vegan diet? Like, were you able to build muscle or weight?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say like in my first beginning part of the journey, you naturally lose, right? Because your body's not absorbing anything until you actually heal to some degree. So it's like it's kind of a mental game when you start to gain a lot of weight, especially being naturally skinny, right? Getting skinnier feels a little like triggering. But yeah, I'm kind of even a little thicker. Like if people saw my legs, like I'm a little thicker than I'm used to, and I only eat plants, and it's kind of funny. So yeah, it took a level of gut healing and restoring absorption, and now I maintain weight perfectly on 100% plants versus before. To maintain this current weight that I'm at, it was like pounding 3 eggs for breakfast with chicken at lunch and a ton of like quinoa and rice and pastas, and I had to eat like that to maintain my weight. So it's so crazy, like even getting to this point and being able to just feel fully like solid, and like lifting and working out while eating this way too.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know for me too, when I was eating like a typical diet or even like cooked food vegan, it took like so many more calories to gain weight than it does of raw foods, just for how much easier it is to absorb.
I wonder if it's like a hydration level as well, like something to do with the hydration naturally like plumps us up and sustains us when food is raw.
Yeah, that's true, because a lot of people that do gain weight when they first go to a raw diet, it's usually people that are on like keto or something, because high fat doesn't have carbohydrates. Like hydrates, you hold water, people. It's not fat.
Right. Oh, so true.
And do you track your food, or you eat very intuitively?
No, I don't track anything. I think I don't have to anymore. I used to, though. Like when I was in a point of depletion after being 100% fruit and I was trying to like damage correct after that, I had to know what was happening for minerals, because I was losing hair and I lost my period and I had teeth sensitivity like crazy. So I had to know what volume of food was going to give me a good mineral balance. And now that I know that, I don't really have to track it all.
Do you think someone can restore like proper hormone balance without incorporating fats if they get enough calories in general of whole fruits and leafy greens?
If avocado is included as a fruit, if coconut is included as a fruit, especially I'm talking from a female perspective too, like how are you going to heal hormones with 0 fat? It's a macronutrient. Like sure, a macronutrient is a term for mainstream nutrition. We have protein, fat, and carbs, but like it's in the mainstream kind of for a reason, like all of these things should exist in balance.
Mm-hmm. With an 80-10-10 type approach, I'm sure you don't really exactly follow anything like that, but would you say that it's better to eat like say 1 avocado a day than have like one day where you have 7 avocados and the rest not?
Yeah, of course. Because then the day where you're having excess fat like that is trying to do what? Make up for the other days where you didn't have a balance of fat. It's like the balance versus the extreme hyper consumption of certain things is just like what throws the body out of balance,
Mm-hmm. What's a typical day of eating like for you right now?
Let's see. Coconut waters, smoothies always have fruit and greens in them. I'll do salads. I love pumpkin seed milk. I love sesame seed milk. I love avocado. Leafy greens are in abundance. I'll do a lot of raw blended soups. If I'm doing steamed stuff, it's steamed broccoli or steamed beets. I love beets. And like for sauces and dressings, I use tahini as a base. I use avocado as a base for some. I blend up a lot of cucumber with like spices and basils and parsleys to make dressings as well. And then of course like veggies like peppers, cucumbers. I eat a lot of the fruit veggies.
Mm-hmm.
That's my sweet spot.
If you include cooked foods, is it typically cooked veggies, not cooked grains or beans?
I don't eat grains or beans.
Okay. Yeah, it's the same for me. I find that is when like you get like mucus forming, or just like that's when my energy will change. But if I just have like cooked veggies, it doesn't really change things too much, you know?
I totally agree with you. Yeah. And especially too, like if we're actively in a spot of still healing our bodies, like I'm still trying to heal aftermath of chemo, like grains and beans are they're considered a mucus forming food if we're looking at really like the definition of what those are. So I don't, even when I'm not actively in detox and I'm kind of pulling more into a maintenance lifestyle, it doesn't include mucus forming foods still.
Okay. Looking at the time, do you have a little bit longer where we could kind of split into like a part 2? Maybe?
No, I can go. I would say my hard stop is a 6:30.
It's 3:07 here, so you mean 3:30 my time probably?
23 minutes. 23 minutes from now is my hard stop. Okay.
Okay. So with you were saying like with transit time too, that like maybe you would see, like I always do this test where I'll have like a dragon fruit once in a while, and then 24 hours later I like to see the seeds. Is it usually, do you think that your bowels are about 24-hour transit time?
No, I'd say mine are sooner than that.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, I know like sometimes, or in the past when I did the dragon fruit test, it would take me like 3 days to see anything.
Oh, wow.
That's why I was like happy when it was like 24 hours. But then there was this time when I was in hospital and I ate like prunes or something, and I swear it came out like 2 hours later. Like it was really, really quick. So I know, like, I don't know what the optimal amount for your transit time is supposed to be. What do you think?
I don't know if I'd say like optimal. I think that if you're eliminating multiple times a day naturally, then you're great no matter what. Like how fast or slow something transports to your body, it's gonna regulate itself as you heal digestion. So as long as you're actually removing the waste on a good cycle at least twice a day. And I tell people too, I was just on a group call earlier, and there was a woman who would have a natural bowel movement in the morning, and then she would do her daily enema right after that bowel movement, but she would have no other natural bowel movement for the whole rest of the day until the next morning. And she started experiencing detox reactions of stuff trying to come out the skin. And I said to her, and I was explaining to her, so if you're naturally having a bowel movement in the morning, but then you're doing your daily enema right after that, you're allowing 24 hours for waste to sit in your body. Where if we strategically placed that enema to the second half of the day, now you've shortened the window of how long waste is sitting in you because you have that natural bowel movement, and then you've strategically placed your daily enema towards the end here. So now we only have 12-hour gaps between when you're eliminating. So as long as you're eliminating and getting rid of that waste and not letting it sit there and seep into the rest of the body, because none of us, have healed our leaky gut to the best degree unless you've actually gone through a healing process. Like, there's no optimal until you're way, way, way later.
Okay. I have trouble understanding how there's a lot of backed up waste in your body if you're having a bowel movement the next day,
Well, what do you mean? Like
if I have the dragon fruit and then I see the dragon fruit the next day, how do I have backed up waste? Like, didn't it just all go through? Like, I always feel like it's just clean then.
I wouldn't call it backed up waste. I would say no, I wouldn't call it backed up, because you're not constipated necessarily unless you feel constipated, I guess. But to me, still one bowel movement per day in the morning, like any waste that starts to formulate, we're eating food all day. Any waste that's formulating as a reaction to that, it's like, wouldn't we want to try to get rid of it more often than letting it sit there? And it's just like, it's at a place too where people with like reproductive issues, even men with prostate stuff, like any sort of that, or if you're like actively parasite cleansing, you want to actively be flushing the bowels. I would say if your diet is super clean and you're eliminating once a day, then that's your elimination style. It, like if you're talking about yourself in particular, I think, yeah, it's just different from if you're actively on detox, you're actively flushing a lot, you're actively doing all these things, or if you're just starting your healing journey and you're only going to the bathroom once a day and you have reproductive issues or prostate or just signs and symptoms. Like that's not their natural bowel movement after cleaning out, versus someone who lives the way you do now, your body's regulated to its natural state.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if someone's on like a juice cleanse and they find they think that they're getting out like a lot of backed up waste because they continue to see waste even when they're on juice. But your body creates solids from any calorie source, doesn't it? So wouldn't that just be the
good
juice?
question. Good question.
I know, like, I always pooped the whole time I had tube feed because it's proteins in there. Like, it's gonna create solids. So I always just thought that the juice is creating that solid for someone, and then they think that they're like letting out years of backed up waste, but you're just creating more food every day from calories. But I don't know.
Well, some people have different reactions to juice fast. Like for me, if I juice fast, my waste is not solid at all. It's completely liquid. So like, I think that in someone's beginning of their journey, right, you're allowing the body to eliminate as much as it possibly can. So yeah, people can get excited about eliminating waste from years prior. But like, if I were to juice fast now, or if you were to juice fast now, it's like, well, is the point of that really to get rid of years of waste? Probably not at this point. It's probably just for allowing our bodies a break on digestion.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because it would be probably really backed up if you've never done any sort of cleansing, but yeah. So what's the longest that you would recommend someone do a juice fast?
I don't say any of that stuff on the internet because people just, to me, juice fasting should not be done or said. It should not be said so casually. Mm-hmm. And the only reason I say that is because I see too many people with adverse reactions. Like, that doesn't go to say that somebody could do a juice fast and have an amazing time. That will probably be the case for a big group of people. But the fact that some people can have crazy, awful reactions to it, I am very hesitant to even say that. Because if I were to say, oh, the optimal juice fast is X number of days, somebody's going to be like, okay, yep, she said that many days, I'm ready for my juice fast. And it's completely taken out of context of prep and foundational herbal support and making sure you're nourished enough, and including green juices and fruit juices and veggie juices if that's what your body's nourishment requires. Like, there's just a lot of nuance to questions like that, especially because people use these things as cure-alls or as, just dropping into stuff randomly and they have a bad time. Like, I don't want that.
Mm-hmm. If you decided to have children, what diet would you raise them on? Or what food, would you be feeding them?
Probably exactly how I eat now, but I would anticipate there probably would be meat in there. Like, I also really intuitively feel like when I get pregnant at some point in time, I do not think I will be 100% like raw food vegan. I don't think that. I don't feel that intuitively in myself. But we'll see. We'll see when that happens. But yeah, I'm going to eat the way I eat. I'm going to cook the way I cook. And, if they're like, hey, so-and-so had this or so-and-so had that, it's like, there's just an education around, like, if it's junk, it's junk. If it's actually something that's in balance, like a fish or this or that, it's like, sure, I'll probably have some too, That's my take on it. And of course, I'm not at that level of life yet, so we'll see. Yeah,
there's definitely stages to that too. Like, I'd say, like you were saying, kind of avoiding the beans and the grains or things that are a little less natural, but just some cooked, like, veggies or cooked meats are a lot more natural than.
Yeah. Even like ancient grains, also depending on them, like, I'm an iridologist, so I can tell naturally what people's bodies can probably likely handle. So just seeing like how their lymph looks and how things potentially look and which organs and systems are looking, par. But in my body, if it's going to be my kids, like, I do not handle beans and grains well. So we'll see if my partner handles it super well and their digestive fire is super high, and see how the kids come out. But I think naturally, like, ancient grains, like a quinoa or a wild rice, a black rice, something like that, that's going to top any other of these, like, white rice and oats and brown rice. And like, that just doesn't, they're just two different things. One is more mucus forming, one is less mucus forming.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know I can train my body to digest those foods. Like, once I start eating them consistently, then it's fine. But then you kind of get used to like this lower level energy, and just the fact that it's so hard to digest them at first, it's kind of like, is this really what we're supposed to be eating? But I also kind of wonder, like, or am I the reason that I can't digest those foods is because I weaken my digestion through avoiding them? Like, there's always that debate, right?
Of course. And I guess that's when we just say, like, oh, how does balance exist? How does balance exist in our own bodies? You know, like in my case, like I definitely notice a slower in my digestion with grains. And that is a thing, and it will always be a thing. However, like I can work through if I'm gonna add quinoa or something, which I haven't in a long time. I don't even know how my body would respond right now. But if I were to add something like that, it's in tiny amounts, you know, like tiny amounts to work up to a bigger amount, if that's the case. And same with meat. Like if anyone's living a plant life, like if I were to do meat again at some point, like you gotta train yourself to get back into that. It's like small amounts spread out over some time before you're working up to bigger amounts. And truly, if you think about it, we probably should only eat those in small amounts anyway.
Mm-hmm. A fruit combination that I love that's really simple that a lot of people know of is like, say, mango and basil goes well together. But one that I discovered was tomato and thyme rather than tomato and basil is really good. And also apricot with like a piece of rosemary, like just whole fruit, like a whole apricot with like an actual fresh rosemary, like little needle on top. It's so good together. Has there been like any weird little fruit herb combinations that you find that taste good together?
This is the first time I'm ever hearing of combining fruits and herbs like that. And when you just said mango and basil, I love mango and I love basil, and I have never thought of eating them together. Oh
well,
my
you can
God.
either like take a bite of each or blend it to a dressing on zucchini noodles.
Oh my gosh, no way. This is a new territory for me right now.
That's my favorite thing. Like a lot of the time I wasn't doing fats for a long time, so most of my dressings were fruit dressings, but fruits and herbs together, that's like the most flavorful food you can have on the planet is fruits and herbs. So when you blend it, it's next level.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for that. This is game changer.
Yeah, it's definitely try. Do you do any sea salt at all?
Ooh, good question. I use Dulce. Dulce, which has,
Okay.
naturally occurring sea salt in
Are
small
you like
amounts.
religious about it? Like I know I used to always take an eighth a teaspoon of kelp every single day, like to help
Mm,
with iodine.
no, because I use sea vegetables. Like I have spirulina in rotation and sea moss in rotation and dulse in rotation. Yeah, I know that it's fine like that.
I know Doug Graham's kind of perspective of it is like the salt is the most toxic part of the sea, and then you isolate it. Like, of course, it's not good for you. So I always kind of just like after that, I kind of didn't really want to enjoy it as much. And you also just like you taste food so much more when you're away from salt that you don't really want it anymore. Otherwise, everything just tastes like salt.
Oh yeah,
But
I don't use salt isolated
with,
like that.
with the seaweeds too, and like at one time I even thought like, oh, I'll incorporate fish, but then it's like, oh, what about all the like toxic levels of mercury in it, or like the seaweed? It's kind of like the liver of the sea. Do you think that it's somehow would be contaminated, or there's safer ways to buy it? Any tips there?
I don't recommend just buying stuff from anywhere. I only put 2 brands in my body, and like stuff is very, very vetted. I don't go buying spirulinas and sea vegetables from random places or Amazon or off mainstream shelves. So what you're saying is totally valid, and I think your vetting of your sources is required for especially sea related stuff.
Do you get fresh or dried?
Have I ever gotten fresh? I get dried now of mostly everything. I don't know if I've ever gotten anything fresh. No, everything's dried.
Okay. I tried fresh seaweed once and it was just so gross. Like it was like rubbery that I was like, oh my God, how have I been eating this dry stuff? Maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to eat. And then I haven't had it for a while. But then once in a while you kind of crave it. So it's probably something that the body needs, right? Some minerals.
Yeah, some minerals. And of course this, sea minerals are super potent. So that's why sea vegetables are beneficial in balance, of course.
Mm-hmm. Do you take any supplements?
Spirulina and wheatgrass, that's my supplements. Sea moss sometimes, not every day.
Okay. And this is a fun question. Have you like what's like the most fun activity or sport fitness thing that you've ever done?
I used to play basketball. I regret not playing further, and I still dream about being in games some days. That was the funnest thing I've done for sport ever in my life. I love it.
I saw a video on your story of you like shooting hoops, and every single one went in except maybe like one of them at the very end. And I was like, what? Like I love basketball too, though. It is fun.
Oh, it's so fun. That was honestly my whole identity before like this. My identity was Tori's the basketball player. And I'm tall too, of course, and I'm like, I have an athletic build, and like I was good at basketball, my little humble flex. But yeah, it's like muscle memory now, and I recently picked it up again because I needed some more play in my life, and I kind of just got back to like my true self as a kid. Like that's your fun, is what you used to do as a child. Like what hobbies did you do as a child? That's probably what you should probably pick up again for play in your life as an adult.
Did you ever have to go through a stage of like inner child healing and like reparenting?
Oh my gosh. I think that's where I'm at right now. Like I've said more recently a couple times that I feel like I've tapped out of a physical level of healing. And that's because like there's only so much all of this diet and herb stuff is going to get you. So I feel like now is when I'm finally, and it's not like I haven't done any of that work. It just feels like now it's in another level and I'm coming to it. I'm almost reparenting from a more mature place. You know how when you have to heal stuff, you're kind of a parent to yourself? I feel like healing myself prior, me as the parent was not as mature as I am right now. So that inner child healing feels a lot more like productive and like it's being kind of ascending to like other levels now. So
I love it. Have you tried yoga?
Absolutely. I love yoga.
What's your favorite style?
Oh my gosh. A yin yoga is my fave. Absolutely. I definitely tried, I will say, I tried Bikram yoga and I love the thought of Bikram yoga. However, the class of Bikram yoga that I went to was a little too culty for my liking because like, why can't I sit in child's pose when I want to? Why do I need to follow the ritual of everyone else's movements? I didn't like that. So I stopped going, but I love that heat. I love that sweat. And I like how you just like hold the single pose for an extended period of time.
Yeah, my favorite thing is you're doing the same series of poses every time, so you can always improve, which is like brings that excitement to it, right?
Yes.
And yin yoga is great because it's like short meditations, but you get to move a little bit. So it's such a great way, like before you go into like meditating for 30 minutes, the perfect way for like hyperactive people to relax.
Oh my gosh, that's exactly what it is for me. That nervous system is the last piece.
Overall, like what's like the next thing for you with helping people like online and for your life?
Ooh, my next step online is to get my face on even more places. Like even people have noticed like the uptick in content, and that's just what it is. You know, I love, if I were to do anything, it would be creating content and hosting group calls, like private calls with people who are going through detox, so I can like help them troubleshoot their problems, whether it be on my protocol. I mean, I'm you know, that's one of the services I offer now. Like people have the opportunity to kind of join me, whether it's on their journey or whether it's my protocol journey. I still offer a container where people have access to like asking me questions on that level. So I just can't handle the amount of questions that are in, you know, the DMs, but the amount of content, definitely. I think it's kind of, I've created different tiers of offerings for people, whether they're super beginner or whether they're super higher level or where they're kind of in this intermediate phase, people who have done detoxes before versus people who are doing their first ever detox. I've tried to create a structure that makes sense across the, you know, the audience of people is pretty large and I get all types. So I've tried to create, you know, containers where people fit in somewhere and they get support somewhere. And the beginners can learn from the more advanced and the advanced can learn how to coach the beginners if that's what they want to do. So yeah, it's just, you know, refining that process, creating more and more and just connecting with people on the internet, truly.
I love that. It seems like you're able to have that profound healing of what it's like to do that one-on-one with more people, because that's always the challenge, right? Like I know I love doing one-on-one the most, and that's the most healing, but then I got to do group coaching so you can help a lot more people at once. But you're able to also have those other coaches and just so many elements into your coaching that makes it so that that person's getting that one-on-one support that they need, right?
Yeah, and like the way that I teach too, like people could discern what applies to them and what doesn't apply to them, because like the benefit of one-on-one is you're kind of being told what truly applies to your body and how it can look in your body. And the way that I kind of walk people through protocols or teach people through protocols is in a way where like you can come up with the answer yourself based on how I'm presenting all the different options or information in response to someone's question. You're like, oh yeah, this part of what Tori said applies to me. So I understand that that's my customized level of, you know, support in some way. So I've tried to refine my messaging. Mm-hmm.
That's so perfect. That's the same thing what I was saying about how you don't want to like listen to what someone's telling you to do. You want to listen to your own body, right? And when someone comes to that conclusion themselves, it's going to be so much more healing and transformative and self-empowering, like we were talking about, for that person. And that's when you truly heal.
Exactly. And people can only come to that conclusion if they have the education. And like that's what I see is interesting on the internet, right? If you're only seeing certain posts about fat here versus protein here, and it's like one single post, or it's like, you need to do this juice fast, and it's just one single post, you have no other context for what are the other options that might be applying to you instead of this one thing that you saw. So it takes away your ability to like feel into and intuitively recognize what's meant for you when you're only presented one option. So by presenting the multiple options all together in one setting for people, whether it be parasite cleansing this way or juice fasting this way, like you can see what option, you know, they resonate with, and it is them coming to the
then they get the best option for sure, and they can be confident about that. Because if you have any doubt, that's going to create issues energetically.
Yeah.
And I have just 2 more questions. First, I just was curious, what's your sun sign?
Is that the main one?
No.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know the different ones. There's
the
main
one. I thought you meant like the main question, but yeah.
Oh.
The main type of sun sign.
The main sign. I don't follow that astrology stuff, but it's not that I don't believe in it. It's that I haven't studied it enough to understand, but I'm a Pisces.
Okay, that makes sense, because that's very like intuitive and spiritual and like, connected. So you're definitely channeling something with the way you teach.
Yeah, totally. I resonate a lot with being a Pisces.
Yeah, I love it. Mine sucks because I'm a Gemini and I don't even like that. But like, there is some things like they're fun, they're creative, and I get along with like the fun signs like Pisces and Aries and so I just like kind of like seeing, because I always find it funny, like if somebody was like a Capricorn or something and I'm not supposed to get along with them, it's not that I would just not like you all of a sudden, but it's just like it's funny because it seems to always work out that it is people that it's supposed to get along with, you know?
Yeah.
Do you know your personality type?
INFJ.
Oh, me too. INFJ. That's the exact same. Oh, that's
INFJ.
crazy.
Do you know your human design?
6'2", I think.
Okay. Do you know
like generator?
You're a generator? Okay.
I believe. What about you?
I'm a manifesting generator, and then I think I'm a 4-2.
Oh,
I don't know what those mean.
I know. I think the 2 means something about like helping, like leading others, so that would make sense.
Yeah.
Because we're doing similar things. And also like Ted, he's an ENFJ, and that's like opposite to INFJ. So usually like you'll be attracted to people that are opposites too. And then we met through that.
Ah, funny.
And the last question I had is, if everything was destroyed, like you don't have your courses, you don't have any of your books, you don't have any of your content, you can only leave one thing, but not even like one book or one video. You only have like one main phrase or one sentence. What would that one thing be to like explain a lot to someone to leave behind for future generations?
Oh my goodness. Jen, this is a loaded question. Let me feel into this for 4 seconds. You guys can stare at my wonderful plant in the meantime. I think this is if everything were to be gone right now, right? We're at 20, almost 26-year-old Tori. So that's different from my lifelong legacy. But right now, I think I would just say like everything takes time. It's all going to take time. That's it.
Mm-hmm. So that applies to like healing and to evolving, to everything. That's so true.
Everything, all of it. Physical healing, emotional healing, the levels of healing, it is all going to take time, which will then require patience.
It's funny because you said how it might change like when you're older, and technically when you're older, you run out of time, but you don't. You have eternal life. So you're like, that's still my same answer.
You're right. You're right. It is the same answer. Because then at that point, when I'm older, I'll be like, it still took all this time to get here.
Oh my God, that's perfect. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing everything. I'm sure there's a lot here that people are going to learn from and start to decide for themselves what they want to do for their own healing. It's going to empower a lot of people. And maybe we'll even introduce people to others that have gone through the exact same thing as me and you. I know that's usually one of the most healing and transformative people to talk to, when somebody that's actually healed exactly what you've been through. And if they haven't, there's lots of people in your corner that there probably is something that whatever they're dealing with, you have someone that can help them with that. So definitely check out Tori's links below. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Do you have anything else to say?
No, thank you so much for having me. I love, the questions you posed, and I hope that, the more and more conversations like this exist across people who kind of study the same thing, it just helps people drop into their own intuition.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. If anybody has any questions for us, or comment even below that you'd want to see like a Q&A with us, we can maybe one day go live on Instagram or YouTube. And we're here to help you guys. So I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching. Bye.